I'm going to start this with what I would do with a first-time student. I'm going to throw a lot of information at you guys, and then I want to talk about a lot of different styles of singing and the differences and how I teach, and how I teach the different styles. So if a new student comes into me, usually I'll ask them about their, excuse me, I'll ask them about the history of their studies. I'll ask them, oh my gosh, I'm getting a dry throat. I guess I'm nervous. Sorry, and I'm getting distracted by people coming in. I have my trusty soda. Okay, I'll ask people to give me a brief history of them as a singer, who they've studied with, and if they've had any vocal injuries, if there's anything I should know about their voice. I'll ask them their goals, and then we'll usually get into a warm-up. But before warming up, I'll talk about breath. So I want to show you guys, and I'm so nervous about this. I have all these videos prepared for you guys, so let's see if I can play this. So click desktop, and then great. Okay. So I want to play this for you guys. Is it working? Yeah, there we go. Okay. So everyone just listen to this video for a sec.
The diaphragm uses its central tendon and its attachments as leverage to flatten during inhalation. The expansion of the ribs comes from the resistance of the internal organs to downward movement. As the internal organs are slow to move, the ribs expand to make room for the lungs. While the diaphragm attaches at the bottom of the ribs, its range of motion never reaches that low in the body.
So, did that work? Can I get some thumbs up if it worked? It worked. Awesome. Great. So, the way I talk about breath, and something that a lot of people come in with, is a lot of tension in the lower abs. So in that video, did you guys see where the diaphragm sits in the body? It's like on the bottom of our rib cage. A lot of people will come in with this old idea where they were told in maybe their choir class or whatever when they were first starting to sing, breathe deep, support really deep and low. And so a lot of people come in and they start to sing and they have all this lower abdominal tension. And if you're able to, I want you to breathe in, kind of push out on your lower abs, like breathe in and then feel that tension down there. When I do that, I feel my throat grabbing, I feel my tongue is really tight, and it just feels terrible. And also, there's nothing down there that we can really use to support our voice. As you saw in the video, the diaphragm sits, Mary Poppins coming in. The diaphragm sits on the bottom part of the rib cage, and there's nothing below that we can really use. Then what I'll have people do is I'll have people breathe in, and then hiss. Feel free to do that with me. And during the hissing, what you should feel is that the diaphragm is pushing out the way that we know it should. And below the diaphragm, underneath our belly button, in that place where a lot of people want to, grip and be really hard and strong down there, you'll feel actually an inward motion starting to happen. So that's something that I talk about a lot when I talk about support. And it's one of the first things I feel like with a lot of people I'll sort of hone in on and try and fix. Sometimes, I mean, some of my students know that I'll just like dig my hand in there and be like, we're asking permission, of course, first, and be like, no, don't do it, don't do it. So really, if you are singing and you're feeling like tension and a hardness below your belly button, it's you trying to support in the wrong place. So that's a very quick, basic explanation of how I teach breath. Okay, so then I'll do warm-ups, and my favorite warm-ups that I do with people, I'll usually start with a lip trill, doing kind of a 1-5-1, we'll go up the scale. I like lip trills because it's a way of getting your voice going without actually really singing yet, without creating big sound. Sometimes I think what a lot of us do when we know we have to sing is like, okay, I know I need my voice to start working. So we start singing big right away. We'll be like, whoa, okay, where's my voice? And we don't want to do that. We want to start small and then build up from the small place. So lip trills are great. Usually for most voice types, I'll start on like an F, and then I'll take them up to like, I don't like to warm up that high. Like if someone's concern is building range and checking in, like then we can do that. Oh, sorry, there are more guests that are trying to get in. This is so great. Oh my gosh, awesome. But I don't like to warm up that high and sort of push on the extremes of someone's voice. So I love lip trills. And then my other favorite sort of beginning warm up that I'll do is an NG warm up. Sometimes when I have people do this, I'll be like, have you ever done this before? And they'll show me, and they'll be like, look at the position of my tongue when I do that. It's very low and it's gripped in my throat. We don't want that. We want the tongue to be high and wide in the mouth, out of the throat. So let me show you how NG should be done. Do you see how far back the tongue is? So that's the right way to do NG. And I love NG because it's another warm up that warms up our voice. Our vocal cords are active, but it is not like screaming and trying to get the voice to work right away. And it's like truly warming it up like a muscle. Good. The next thing I'll do, which is the bane of some of my students' existence, and I do it with everybody, no matter what genre, it's "You look really great." And it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on "You look really great." And I'll depending on the range, I'll start usually on a D for lower voices and an F for higher voice women and men. And it's all you do is you go, "You look really great." Let me do it again. I did a bad job. And I'm going to do, "You look really great." So the reason I love "You look really great" is it's all the closed vowels. It's ooh, oh, e. And it's all the worst, most annoying consonants ever. You, so if we can do that warm up really well, and say the consonants not in our jaw, not in our throat, saying these closed vowels, true closed vowels. Have you guys ever been singing and then you feel like all of a sudden your closed vowels are starting to open up and your E's are eh and O's are O's? And we've all been there. And usually for me, that means that I am about to do a really bad job if I'm starting to do fake E's and Oo's. So finding these closed vowels are super important in all genres of singing, and doing true real vowels. That's another thing that I don't teach vowel modification even on high notes. My students have heard me say a million times, it's an open close vowel, which means that you can do an oo or an e on a high note, saying oo and e just with a long jaw. So ooh, e, and not oh, you know, I can say ooh, e really high. So remember, open, close vowels. I'm sure anyone who studied with me is like, yeah, Matt, okay. So now that's what I'll kind of do with warm-up. My warm-ups are very basic. Another warm-up I'll do for women especially is I'll do chest to head. So I'll have them, lately I've been having them do, I used to have them do ba 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 wee, or sorry, ba 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 wee, and starting in chest and going up to head an octave and then bringing it down and mixing back to chest with very even registration, and not wee and like blasting down to chest. But lately I've been having them go somewhere wee. Really smooth, really gentle. It's a great way to sort of find that even registration and not be like somewhere wee and reaching for pitches, staying in the same place and having it be really smooth on the way down so you can mix back into chest. And then warm-ups are specific to, I see another person. Warm-ups are specific to the student. And, you know, if a student asks me for a special warm-up to like, I have a countertenor student that I was teaching the other day, and he wants to expand his range. So we were doing a warm up. I just made up one on the spot that helped him do that. But really it's NG, you look really great, and ba 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 wee for the most part. Good. So now I'm gonna get into some more fun stuff. I'm gonna talk about opera singing first before I get to we're going to talk a little bit about musical theater singing and pop singing as well. But let's talk about opera first, because the student isn't an opera singer, he's going to sing musical theater, so we'll get to musical theater at the end. So let's talk about a woman opera singer at first. One of the most important part of the voice is the middle voice, because if we're doing weird things in our middle, going down to the lower range and to the higher range is going to be really difficult. So I want to show you a video of what I think is someone doing good middle voice singing. Let me make sure I can find it. Where is it? I should have labeled these more clearly. Where is it? Sorry, guys. Here we go. So I'm sure you know who this is. But I want you to pay attention to her mouth, her chin, and just everything she's doing. So I know we could all watch the whole thing, uh, but I want you to remember her face. So one thing I'm always talking about with middle voice is what I learned from my teacher, Trish McCaffrey, who taught me everything I know, and then I kind of went with it. It's something that she calls finger space that I teach to my students. So finger space means, okay, what's the vowel I'm singing in middle voice? Is it a closed vowel? Closed vowels are e, u. And then we think, okay, closed vowels are one finger. So she's going, then is a two finger vowel because it's an open vowel, and o. So that's a great way to sort of give yourself very specific things to do when you're in your middle voice. So closed vowels, and I'll be more specific about the range of this. So basically, lower middle from where you stop being in chest to usually like a D for a mezzo and an E flat for a soprano, this rule applies. It's one finger space for E, E, U, and two finger space for A and O. And then above that usually D or E flat place, then you're in two finger space all the time. And that's when the open closed vowels come in. It's E, ooh, and you're just doing two finger space for everything. But didn't you see her? She was doing her one finger space. She wasn't over dropping for closed vowels in her middle. And she was, because if you're going, you're just blowing air. Your diaphragm. When I did that, I felt my diaphragm go in, like wildly in, and I couldn't possibly control the way my air was releasing, and I had my resonance. I had no resonance. It was just sort of blowing, terrible throat sounds. So if we use the embouchure, I talk about the position all the time of the jaw. If we use this embouchure, it helps us with the way that we're releasing our air. So if we're doing this, this is something new this week. I was telling a few of my students to do prune. So you say, have you seen like the Kardashians? They'll be like, say prune, and your lips look great and you look gorgeous in a selfie. So if you sing in prune in your middle voice and do the two finger space when you need to, just like Callis was literally doing prune. So that's how I'll talk about middle voice for female opera singers a lot, constantly. And like I said, I think I see some chats coming through. If you have any questions throughout, I'm going to answer them all at the end. Great, so we're just going through this, great. Let's go to high notes for women in opera. And I'm gonna play you a fun video that I made. We're gonna do high notes and then we're gonna talk about low notes. Where is it? I really didn't label these well. I bet you guys can see it before I do. Okay, opera, women high notes, great, okay. So yeah, just a quick video, of lots of ladies singing high notes. So so for mezzo sopranos, so for sopranos and mezzos, obviously high is different depending on the range. So for some mezzos, G and A flat might be really, really high. So as you saw, as the high notes got higher and higher and higher for the extreme of the voice, you do what I call the upside down triangle, which is when the one time you're allowed to sort of go wide, in my opinion, in opera. I mean, there are moments like for dramatically, if you want to do something where you're sort of rough with your voice, obviously you have to do that because it's the music and the drama. But if we're singing bel canto and being beautiful, we're saying very much in this prune place. And then when we get to that higher end of our voice where it's an extreme high note, usually if I'm being specific, it's usually around like a A flat or A for a mezzo, and a B natural for a lyric soprano, and then usually a C sharp and above for a coloratura, that's when you're getting to that sort of upside down triangle place. Why does this work? Well, first of all, like, so listen to me. I'm sorry if I sound terrible, but I'm gonna try and demonstrate the best I can. So listen, if I'm going, so didn't you hear that my voice simplified and got kind of thinner and brighter with the width of my mouth? I wasn't changing anything. I was only changing the width of my mouth. So I don't think that we should, I don't encourage people to sing opera like, that's not operatic. And actually, even though it might sound kind of loud right in front of your face, it's not as resonant and loud, just being simple, as when I do that, when I sing with the prune mouth, my resonance, I feel it shaking the room. When I go here, it sort of hits my computer screen and it stops. But when you're in the extreme range of your voice, you need this because you don't want to be carrying all the weight. Like Joan Sutherland in that clip, she has a huge, beautiful, dark voice, but she's not going to try and do that on the high E flat that she just sang in that clip. So this simplifies the sound, makes it brighter and lighter. And the best thing about it is, for high notes, our tongue wants to go down our throat so badly. It wants to be like, oh, we want to do all sorts of things on our high notes. But you know what your tongue won't do if you're like this? It won't go down. Look, I'm not thinking about my tongue being in the right position. It's just that it's doing it, and I like this. So it's just a great way to get your tongue up and out of your throat. So the final thing I'll talk about with women in opera singing is chest voice. And this is something that I am super aggressively into these days, is getting women to confidently sing with chest voice. So I'm going to show you some amazing chest voice from one of my favorite mezzos. Here she is. So pretty amazing, right? That's Elena Obraztsova, Russian mezzo. She's no longer alive, but she actually sang very well till very shortly before her death, which for me, there's always this discussion of, oh, chest voice ruins voices, don't sing in your chest voice, all this stuff. But she has the most whopping, enormous, someone wants to get in, whopping, enormous chest voice. And if you'll notice, did you see her doing the closed lips? Did you see her doing the going long for the open vowels? So first of all, she's doing everything that I think is right. And then all of that sound was so in her head. So this is the big misunderstanding about chest voice, I find, from teachers that talk about it, is that it's not actually all chest voice. It's a huge percentage in your head. And it should, in a perfect world, it would mix evenly from head voice down to that chesty sound. The way I'll usually explain chest voice is that that you're sort of blowing into a bottle, not actually going, but thinking that you're sort of, I have a bottle. That sort of feeling of going into a bottle, and that you are sort of sending your head into your chest, not chest into your head. That's more belting, which we'll talk about later. So if going, see, I can basically find my whole operatic voice from my head. So when you're singing in opera, you want to find, this is something I was talking about with a student the other day, it's finding what's the note where your voice kind of naturally wants to go more towards chest voice, and deciding what that is with your teacher. It's kind of different for everybody. It's not sort of set in stone. And then committing to that, unless there's something where you have to be piano or doing something, committing to that note, being like, okay, when I get to that note, I know my voice needs more chest voice. If I try to avoid it, I'm actually, what I like to say, registering my voice instead of letting my voice registering the way it needs to register. And obviously, there, like I keep saying, there are moments when you have to register your voice. When maybe there's a moment in the show where it calls for a big chesty moment, a little higher than maybe you'd want to do it. But it's chest connection and chest voice in opera is so important. That's why Verdi wrote all these operas with like D's and B's for women. That he wanted the sound down there. You know, he didn't want the women to be like woo, you know. So anyway, moving on. Let me check my notes because I want to stay on track. Let's briefly talk about male singing in opera, because we're going to have a male student later who used to mostly do opera, and now he's doing musical theater. So we're going to talk about some of that stuff with him. So I'm only going to show these 2 videos really briefly because I wanted to focus more on women since we don't have a female singer today. So let's look at Pavarotti for a second. And this is the clip I showed everybody. I'm sure you've all seen it before, to demonstrate amazing tongue position. And then also I want you to look at his lips. I want you to look at his jaw. I want you to look at all the things and just notice how amazing it is. So that was pretty amazing. So did you guys see the tongue? Did you see the long jaw for the top? Did you see that he wasn't spreading? That note isn't that crazy high for him. He didn't have to be like and be in his upside down triangle. He was in this long place. And tenor singing is really complicated because it is the voice, the chest voice, being sort of dragged up a little higher than it wanted to. I've read that back in the day when bel canto, it was more like what it is now as you know, Verismo opera started happening and Verdi and all those people. But early bel canto, a lot of the tenors would sing in head voice. It wasn't the sound. It was, and when people first started singing that way, they were like, "What is that?" But obviously, it's very exciting, and that sort of became the norm. And I'm very happy for it, because if someone went it'd be a little less exciting. But so I'm not going to talk so much about him right now, but you saw all the stuff. You saw he doesn't spread, he doesn't drag up chest voice. It's almost like the idea of singing chest voice for women. There's tons of head voice in that sound. Now we're going to watch a bass really fast. Trust me, I know how boring it is because I am a bass. But I want to just talk about it briefly. Here we go. Kurt Moll. So again, lips, jaw position. These are world famous singers doing the things that we're talking about here. And again, that low F that he just hit, so in his head, so here. It's not und sieht auf. If I did that, no one would ever hear me. If I go und sieht auf, then maybe you'll hear me, maybe, if I'm lucky. So good, okay, so we talked about opera. Whirlwind your opera. So now let's get to the fun stuff and talk about some belting. It's sort of my favorite thing to teach. I especially love teaching opera singers who are new to musical theater how to belt. And again, this is going to be the theme for the day. The misconception is that you should be dragging your chest up all the way to the top of your range, and that is just not the case. I'm going to show you guys a quick video, and then we're going to talk about belting for a little, and then in a few minutes we're going to bring on my student to sing for us a little. But let's watch some good belting first and talk about it a little.
Happy times, happy nights, happy lives, happy days are here again.
So the reason I want to show that, besides it being completely fabulous, is you have something so interesting going on. You have Judy Garland belting in an old style in the 20s and 30s when she became famous in vaudeville. she was singing without a mic with a band. And the writing back then was, of course, lower, so you could be chestier. You were almost singing operatically, but belting. And then you have Barbara, who is sort of what that turns into, because the writing gets higher, the people start using microphones, it's more exciting to go higher. And let's be serious, mainstream writers were stealing from black performers and writers and stuff, and they were doing belting, gospel music with belting, and then that started to become part of mainstream music. And then women in the industry started just having to belt higher because that was the writing. So you have Barbara, who is singing with a much more head-dominant belt, with Judy, who is doing her old style. It's just so interesting to see these two people. It's amazing that they did this together, and it's just amazing for me as a teacher to be like, whoa, 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 that's so cool. Because, you know, Judy was probably twice as loud, but Barbara had probably a fifth higher than she did, if not more, than in head voice, just because her voice is just a little more flexible, because she's not going for loud. She's not going for that. When we do this sort of more even registration, the voice is higher, but it's also smaller, which brings me to my next person that I want to talk about. And I'm going to go a little over in my talk, but it's okay because it'll be fine. It's not much more. Because another thing that makes me crazy, we're talking about chest voice, teachers saying chest voice is bad for the voice and everything. The other thing that makes me crazy is teachers saying that belting's bad for your voice. So let's look at someone who's been belting longer than I've been alive, longer than I think most of the people in this room have been alive. So let's take a look. So let's look at her when she's young. Not the youngest clip I could have found, but pretty young. Okay. So let's go to the next clip when she's a little older. Sorry, it's being a little slow. Patty midlife is what I called this video. So, okay, then let's go to the last one, which is the Patty older video. This is one of the things that I saw live. So this is spanning, I made these quick because I didn't want them to last forever. I could have watched them forever though. This is spanning, I mean, how many decades do we just do? 80s, 90s, and then 3 decades, but she's been doing it a lot longer, you know? So this is just to show that if you learn how to belt well with sort of even registration, not screaming in your chest, not spreading. Did you see her mouth? It's always not spreading, not dragging chest up. You can belt until you're 70 like Patty and win multiple Tonys. Be amazing. So that's why I want to show Patty. To show belting is so much head voice. There's so much head voice in belting. I cannot say that enough. And one thing that I do is constantly trying to find with people, especially opera singers who come from opera and then learn how to belt, trying to find something that's lighter. I heard Patty at a sound check sing without a mic one time. She was so soft, and that's not a diss. It's because she's a genius, because she doesn't sing with too much voice. That's why she can still sing. She's not screaming, she's not bellowing. Color, dark color, her voice is dark, especially as she's gotten older. Dark color doesn't mean that you're screaming and being loud. It's what the mic picks up the most, and her voice sounds huge on a mic. I mean, it's amazing. But she's so smart with the way she registers her voice and the way she uses it. So then we're getting to the end. Now let's just watch how olden day belting, Judy, then Barbara, then someone like Patty, who is singing probably more similarly to Barbara than she is to Judy, actually, because of the range that she used to sing in. And let's look at how that then affects pop singing. And we're going to look at 2 people. We're going to start with this. No, okay, there. So that was pretty unbelievable. So, but Celine could not have done that if she's going, "Wah!" and trying to like drag her entire chest voice up there. You saw her mouth, she was going, oh, no spreading, occasionally going a little wide when she wanted to bring some chest equality in, but not bringing her chest voice up. It's so here, so in tune with both registers. Now we're gonna watch one more pop singer to then go to what pop belting has become now, which is even heavier because the writing has gotten even higher. So let's just look at that really fast, and then we're going to talk about one more thing, and then we're going to have my student come in and sing. Pop belt 2, and these are all short because I did not want to watch forever. So I love Ariana, and it's because she sings easy, she sings with tons of head resonance, and her songs are high. Remember that song Problem? I couldn't believe it. Whenever she performed on live, she was singing A flats over and over and over. Unbelievable, because she sings with tons of head voice. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about, and we've just talked about so many things, is legit singing in musical theater. And this is what I think my favorite thing to teach, because it's one of the things that I like most, because I think it's what initially attracted me to musical theater, because I like the legit sound because my parents are opera singers, but I like musicals. So let's watch one of the examples that I chose. Okay. Legit, yeah, okay. Let's watch beautiful Kelly O'Hara sing for a little bit. And now, that was just so beautiful, oh my gosh. And now let's watch one more clip of someone singing a little less legit, but what would be considered a more legit style of singing in theater these days. And I love Kate Baldwin. So I love her, she's amazing. So the point of those videos is to show that if you're an opera singer who's like, oh, I want to sing musical theater, I can just sing all the legit shows the way I sing opera. You can't. You really can't. The style is just so different, and the expectation is to be more speaky, which is so brighter. And the way that I teach that, and what you can see in those videos, is every vowel is long. It's you know, if I loved you time and again, I would try to say all I want you to know. You know, it's all blah, blah, blah all the time, because then you get the straight tone without like ripping and grinding and trying to do straight tone. And it's so huge. So if you're an opera singer who's like, I'm interested in doing musicals, you have to either learn how to belt, which is easier than you think because it's not dragging your chest voice up so high, or you have to learn how to do that. And otherwise, you walk into the room and people are like, oh, you sound like an opera singer, which isn't that so stupid, because opera singing is so hard to learn how to do. We work all these years, and then it's like, you sound like an opera singer. Anyway, that's my opinion. That's not been my experience, because I don't audition for musicals. I just should, right? No, but I don't. But it's what I hear from my students and other people that go in for musical theater auditions, and that's the feedback if they come in singing very legit. So it's not that I don't think opera singing is good. I love hearing classical singers sing all kinds of music. I love like a opera singer singing a pop song. You know, it's exciting to hear that kind of voice on that kind of music. But for casting people and just for the expectation of what the style is, that is the expectation. And it's very beautiful expressed. It's all very connected to the text. Musical theater is really about the words and the acting first, and then voice second. So but all this thing, belting, became popular because it's all about how we're speaking. Belting is very related to speaking. It's blah, blah, blah. Hey, how are you? Whoa, I'm doing great. So way easier to understand and connect to right away than I'm doing great, you know. So it's that's the that's why people belting has become more popular. But anyway, I just talked a lot, and I wanted to talk about so many things, and I think I chose too many things, but I hope that you got some good information about that, and I'm gonna look and see if there were questions at the end. And now, you know, I see that there were a few